It's a huge treat to have Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google, here. And I will give a little bit of a preamble more than I normally do, and I think a lot of the team knows this, but it's always worth reminding the team. We wouldn't be here on many levels if it wasn't for Google. Clearly, Khan Academy certainly got for its first attention on YouTube. I don't think I would have been able to do what I did had YouTube not existed when it did. Some of y'all might not realize, but in 2005, we were on Java servlet web hosting, and that wasn't scaling. And so in January, I was like, hey, there's this thing called App Engine. And we went on there, and we have been ever since, so even from a platform point of view. But most importantly, in the early days when we were kind of not even clear that we could even become an organization, Google and Google.org was one of the very first to step up and allow us to become a real organization. And ever since then, through LearnStorm and even existing grants, continuing to support this. So first of all, just thank you.
Oh, it's a lot of people are behind it. I'm glad we are part of something this great. So
thank you. So let's just start. You're not new to the job as CEO of Google anymore. It's been almost 2 years now, or a year and a half?
I haven't counted, but something like that.
So what's your view of the of the world? What you're hoping to do at Google?
First of all, thanks for having me here. I have to confess, there are times when I have to speak at things like this and on topics which I don't know much about. I may sneak into Khan Academy and see a video here and there. So I'm a user of the platform as well. From a Google standpoint, in some ways, I think we share a lot of what your mission is as well. Our stated mission is to bring information and knowledge, for everyone. We take the for everyone part seriously, and we've been working on it for a while, but we again have this renewed sense of excitement within the company because of machine learning and AI. We think over the next 10 years we can, take a bunch of stuff we've been doing to a different level, and we are still in early days. Computers are just beginning to kind of get better at things like speech recognition, image recognition. That's what a lot of the excitement is about when we say, we are making a lot of progress in machine learning. And so using that thoughtfully across everything we do and taking things to the next level is a big part of our focus. Closely related to that is building computing platforms for everyone too. I think I was personally very inspired by the OLPC project at the time. And I think that notion of being able to make computing accessible to everyone is very near and dear to a lot of us, particularly to me. I didn't have access to computing growing up, and I literally mainly got it towards the end of my college, and so I have a very discrete sense of how it changed what I was able to understand, what I was able to get out of it. So I think we are in this spot where it's very exciting to see computing, which historically worked for a small percentage of the world, now is that penetration is getting better and better. Mobile is at 3 billion users now, and I can see signs we can scale it beyond that. So we are, be it with platforms like Chrome, Android, we've always cared about making computing more affordable and reaching everyone. I think there are others working on connectivity as well. So the combination of all that, I think we can get to a stage where pretty much sometime within the next 10 years, for most people in the world, I think you'll be able to give them something which with connectivity, you have the access of everything in your hands. And so I think that's a pretty profound transformation. And so, broadly that excites us. And it serves our mission well. And we have to do well as a company too, meanwhile, as we go through this. So a lot of it is, actually viewing this advances in machine learning and AI as an opportunity to bring it in an equal way to everyone. And I think that's largely what excites me.
And it's incredible. I mean, Google is one of the few organizations in the world that are in the position to do this. But on top of kind of all this, I would say, deep technical work that y'all are doing, education I've heard is a big interest area for you. Google has several initiatives in education, some of which we've been interfacing with. What's your view of Google's role in education, either globally or in the US?
I think culturally we have always identified in a pretty deep way with academia, with education in general. And so we see this as a big area where, I think, as I said, our mission kind of is complementary to it, and so we want to play a role to the extent we can. We've been fortunate in the sense that our products have gotten very popular in educational institutions all the way from K through 12, largely with Google Apps first, and we have done other things like Classroom and Chromebooks and so on. We'll also do, not-for-profit initiatives in education as well. So we are investing more. And I think when I think about it, I think education is obviously, most of you here understand it better than me, but it's complex, and we just think technology can play an enabling part. I was talking with Sal about this a bit, but I think when I look at approaching many problems in the context of Google, we try to do things, we try to iterate, we see what works, what doesn't work, and then we do these things that way. That concept is hard to do in education, rightfully so, because you don't want to get things wrong. But I think it's important to figure out how to innovate more, and in that context, I think technology can play a part, and so play a part in hopefully helping people figure out what, many things to try, when things work, be able to do more of it, scale it more. How do you bring educators and children all in a virtuous cycle together, which is what you all are working on. So, for me, when I look at it, it looks like a complex ecosystem. So we want to see where we can enable these things. And so from a standpoint of providing technology. But a lot of people are interested in Google beyond just the products we build or the technology we provide. Googlers are passionate. They want to volunteer a lot in education. For Google.org, it's one of the important pillars on which we invest. So I think that's what makes it a bigger thing for us.
Yeah. And, here at Khan Academy, you mentioned you dabble in it a little bit. You were just telling me your daughter uses it through her school sometimes. Where do you see ways that we can work together, how we can support each other's goals?
It's been interesting to see which, from the first time I saw Khan Academy to actually, my daughter, I see her sometimes come and she has homework, but it's part of doing it in Khan Academy. I have to once in a while lean over and make sure she is not just using YouTube generally, but outside of that small thing, it's pretty amazing to see that teachers are using it, and it's been great to see.
So you too are upset when your children are hooked on YouTube?
Sometimes.
It's a sign that something's working. Yes. Okay.
No, it's amazing the kind of stuff you learn on YouTube. I almost miss it because they don't come to me with any questions. So they kind of figure out, they get their answers from YouTube, and later I'm like, oh, you could have asked me. Maybe I would have known the answer. In terms of us working together, I do mean it when I say we think of our role as enablers. We participate in many ecosystems, and in that way we approach it. But I do think there are areas where we care about. When I mentioned the for everyone part, I think it's important. We think one of the things that attracted me to Google, and that Google search worked globally, right? And it's kind of like, if you had access to computing and connectivity, and that's a big if, but if you had access to computing and connectivity, it actually really didn't matter where you were accessing Google from. You kind of got the same thing, and that equality of access, I think is important. So hopefully, I'm interested in, our last round of efforts. We were excited about your efforts to localize what you're doing more broadly. I think that's important to us. So getting these things to work even in places like Brazil, Indonesia, India, and how do you scale it up, I think is something we deeply care about. And to the extent we can play a part in that, we want to do that. The other part is, I think given we are working on things like not just our products, Classroom, to the extent we have feedback on how we can evolve what we do better, better to make all this work more effectively for teachers and students. For you all, we are open to iterating our products that way. You were mentioning that you guys are plugging into classroom and stuff. That's encouraging for me to hear. And we are also in early days of setting up teams internally at Google to do other things which have nothing to do with our products on education. So hopefully we can align better and make some of them more complementary.
Yeah, and just to, we unfortunately we could talk for hours, but just as kind of an ending question, what advice, you've seen Google grow from a relatively small stage to now it's this thing that is, actually delivering on its mission. And we have a huge mission, free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. And we like to think we're already making a dent in that, but we're serious about delivering. What advice do you have to us as, a relatively small team as we try to go and try to do that over the next 5 or 10 years?
You're doing this partly, but, I wouldn't underestimate, the change you do at the tip of the tree, how fast it can flow down. I think you've already, the fact that you guys are approaching a space like education and have shown that you can innovate in the context of that space, I think that thing is a big thing. We take it for granted being in technology companies. Like anytime we face a problem, we think we can break. We fail, by the way, a lot, but at least our attitude is that you can approach anything, however complex it is, with an engineering mindset. You try and understand how, what are the various components of it, how you can iterate and make things better. It's kind of the default assumption a lot of us have, but I think it doesn't always translate to things like many outside things, be it education or healthcare. When I deal with this, I realize, well, we take this for granted, and that's not how it works. I don't mean it in a negative way. There are good reasons why those systems are the way they are, and the cost of a mistake is exceptionally high in something like healthcare and so on. But I think figuring out how to innovate, is just I think an imperative, and I think hopefully you continue pushing what you guys are doing already, and I think you've changed already the conversation. I'm amazed at where all your name comes up, and so figuring out how to do that, I think, because for every one thing you do, there is a multiplicative effect of how many other people get excited by it. So, 100 people organization here, effectively over time, you're motivating thousands and tens and thousands of people to change their approaches and so on. I think I've always been, the leveraged effect on top of a platform is always very counterintuitive to see. I can give thousands of examples, but the fact that everybody starts using phones and phones have GPS and location on them, you wouldn't assume that it would change transportation one day. But you kind of then see, ride sharing take off and things happen. None of the people who are working on phones ever had any remote sense that people would use phones, and hence because of that, how you get car changes, right? And so anything you do at a platform level has these non-linear effects, extraordinarily leveraged ways to change things. And I had a lot of experience with this personally. Early on when we were working on the web, a few people working on browsers made changes in the platform so that you can asynchronously, what was later called as AJAX, so that, for example, if you were doing email, just because you want to change something in the email or what you're seeing, you didn't have to reload the entire page, right? And that small change led to things like Google Maps. You can scroll, you can drag and look at maps, and how maybe YouTube works, and how literally everything became interactive on the web. So anytime I think you work at a platform level, I think you end up impacting a lot more over time than you think. So I think trying to platformize what you do, so that others can take it, use it over time, rethink it, I think is very, very powerful. So hopefully that's the way you impact a lot of how education works as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for visiting, and let's do this again.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks.